Question of the morning. And then we have two questions in the morning because I don't want to answer the first question in the morning. The first question of the morning is Kyle Whittingham staying or is he retiring? The date on his contract to notify pass. Hey, DJ, did he notify him, but they're not going to announce after the bowl game? Yeah, I don't know.
An exact text I got about a half hour ago. Any new news on Kyle Whittingham?
I just got one also. Hey, what have you heard? You know, I'm not going to trust anything I hear. Kyle gets to change his mind. He has changed his mind on important decisions before. You know why? Because we all do it. That's why. So he'll do what he does. He'll announce it. If I'm the one who breaks the story, what do I get for it? That's about what I get for it. If I try to break the story and I get it wrong, what happens? Weight of the world comes down on me. This is a high-risk, low-reward gig, people. And all Kyle has to do is change his mind, which is just absolutely a human thing to do. The number of people I know who over the last 10, 15, 20 years, people I know deciding to retire, some of them super clear. Man, when my dad did it, completely crossed me up. I didn't think it was a great idea. Turned out to be a great idea. He knew himself better. He was right. You don't know. You look from the outside. You think you know. I was looking outside at my own dad, and I couldn't get it right. And predicting what somebody else is going to do when it's so personal, and this is a situation where Kyle holds the cards. If he wants to stay, he's coming off 10-2. That's super hard to do. Why would you mess with that? Answer? You wouldn't. So we will wait. That's what we will do. Now, you should know. How can we know if Kyle doesn't know? Maybe he's coming back. Time will tell. And I don't see any of my other fellow media members running to jump in front of that train either. Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. The other question in the morning, which actually impacts Kyle, could have impacted him this year. Could have impacted the mood of many of you this year. How many teams should play in the college football playoff? We got a few days away from all the chaos. And a lot of the emotion now should be gone. And you can look at this and think, how do we fix this thing? Well, number one, you don't. It's always going to be messy. If this were two teams, it'd be messy. Indiana'd be in. But is it Ohio State? Is it Georgia? I don't want to see a rematch. It should be Georgia. They won a conference, says everyone from the SEC. And everyone in the Big Ten. Yeah, well, you foisted that LSU rematch on us. And a 2-loss team won the title, so it should be Indiana. Indiana's number one, and look how close Ohio State came. That should be the time. So there'd be a fight if we were still in the BCS. If it were 4 teams, would it be the top 4? Or would the lobbying be a lot more intense because the Big 12 just doesn't measure up? And you can tell me the Big 12 wouldn't get the shaft, but the Big 12 would. The Big 12 got the shaft when they had the Oklahoma and Texas brands in the league. The Big 12 just isn't safe when it comes to power politics. They will get pushed aside by the Big 10 and SEC. It happened to Oklahoma State when they had like a 12-1 team and they didn't get in. It happened to it was TCU and Baylor. 1-loss teams. And they beat each other. No. I mean, the Big 12's gotten the short end of the stick before. Would Oregon have nosed out Texas Tech? Well, now we know Indiana's number 1, and Oregon's only lost as number 1. Tech lost at Arizona State. Please. And Ole Miss and Texas A&M with 1-loss teams would have been complaining. Personally, I don't think Oregon or Texas A&M played very difficult schedules. I think either the Utes or Cougars could have gone 11-1 in their schedule, and they'd have the Big Ten and SEC logos hanging next to them, and they'd be in. But that's neither here nor there. So I think there'd be a brawl either way, and there's a brawl now at 12. Notre Dame got left out. And the funny thing is, for the people who are criticizing it, it's like it's a TV show. They'll never leave the Irish out, and they did. Now, fact is, maybe part of that was a little politics there and some bad blood behind the scene, and Notre Dame's been rubbing people the wrong way for a long time. Yeah, maybe. I mean, people are human. Subconsciously, does that weigh in? They're splitting hairs. So, instead of going 12, should they go 16? Now, if they go 16 with the automatic qualifiers, Utah's out. Utah would be the first team out, but BYU would have been in. But 16, nice round number, 4 weeks of playoffs, especially when they start playing playoff games on Army-Navy weekend, which I think is inevitable now. I think there's no way that doesn't happen. I 100% expect it, possibly as early as next year. They're not going to decide next year's format until they get to January. Get to the title game, see how it plays out, and then they'll decide what to do next year. Making it up as they go along. But if that gives them a better chance of getting it right, I guess I can live with it. But I'd prefer they settle on something and stick with it. Don't like change. I really didn't need the NFL to add this 7th playoff team in the AFC and NFC. Those teams aren't going to win it. Stay at 6. You had a good thing going. But you get paid a lot more money for 2 more playoff games. So they added. And that's what's going to happen in college football. They're going to get paid a lot more for a couple more playoff games. So they're going to add them. And I thought about this last night. Watching the because for a long time I thought it should be a 16-team playoff. And by long time, I mean decades. Decades I thought it should be a 16-team playoff. It'd be great. And now I'm starting to lean more towards 24. And I was watching that game last night thinking, like 15 million people or something watch that game now on an average Thursday night. And these Thursday night games aren't great. These teams only have like 4 days to prepare. And that was a mediocre team and a bad team last night. But it's 29-28. And I know it's partly gambling, but people are going to gamble on the college games. And it's partly fantasy football, and that doesn't really translate. But those are 2 super mediocre teams. That was a very entertaining game. Yeah, the fumbles, and they can't recover them twice in 5 minutes. Come up with the fumble, win the game. That's why Todd Bowles lost his mind. There were so many plays. All you got to do is dive on the ball. You don't have to be highly skilled. Dive on the ball and hold on to it. Because they did dive on the ball and have it scored out of their hands. And they win the game. They're going to run out the clock. There isn't enough time. They needed 3 scores. We didn't even get into the craziness of the analytics and the 2-point conversions, which they escaped because they scored 3 times. When you're down 14, you go for 2 the first time? Okay. Because you figure if you miss, you'll make it. The odds are you make it the second time, you'll be tied. If you make it the first time, you just kick the extra point next time and you win the game and avoid OT. I get the logic. But they missed twice. And then they kicked a field goal and won anyway. And 15 million people watch. So are these going to be great college football games? No. Are these going to be teams that win the championship? No. Neither of the teams that played last night. Yawk, would you watch USC play Arizona?
Yeah.
If it's a 2014 playoff, that's 16 versus 17. That's a first-round game.
But you also know me, DJ. I'm what they call a sicko. I'm watching action. I'm watching the Fun Belt.
How many sickos are there in America when it comes to football?
There's a lot.
How many people are there in L.A. who are going to wonder if Lincoln Riley can win a playoff game?
Well, yeah.
A lot.
And
how many people across the country are going to hate watch USC?
A lot.
The whole state of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Barry Trammell's told us that multiple times.
Every Notre Dame fan.
I think a lot of Ute fans would watch that too.
True.
They feel like they got a thing with USC. And it's hard to call it a rivalry when USC has Notre Dame and UCLA, but there's a little something there, and USC can say there isn't, but I got 8 fingernails on your quarterback that says there is something there. So watch it. 15 would be Utah versus 18 Michigan. Would you watch that? Yep. Absolutely. That's a matchup they want people to watch. That's why when they played a decade ago, ESPN, no, it was Fox, whatever. One of the TV networks moved it to Thursday night. Yeah, let's open the season with that game. Michigan came out to Utah. So I think their games all over. Tulane and Texas. Oh, will Sark have a face plant? Yeah, Tulane versus Texas. We'd watch. We would definitely watch these games. Notre Dame would be in playing Georgia Tech. Tech's collapsing late in the season. These games will draw. I think it's going to 24. And honestly, some of the games that sickos like you and I are watching, Yawk, we'd watch this one.
Oh, yes.
Our audience, and we've got almost 500 votes now. I put this poll up yesterday. Our audience, 59% wants a 16-team tournament. almost 29% want the 24-team tournament. And I think 24 is coming because of money. And it ups the odds of our local teams getting in.
Well, 16 also would, but to your point, you're almost all but guaranteed. The way things worked out this year.
Also, if they go to 16 and they're given one spot to the G5, I think they'll just let's go to 24. They can have one at 24. We'll beat their brains in, whatever. But we don't want our team squeezed out. And I think at 24, I wouldn't worry about 32 because nobody wants to watch number 32 get worked by number 1. and you run into playing too many games in too many TV windows. There aren't enough TV windows for all the games to squeeze 16 playoff games in. There's not enough weeks on the calendar. I think it's 24. I think that's where we're headed. Steve Spurrier had a great line a long time ago. Steve, what do you think of going to 4 teams in the playoff? I like it. I'm not going to like it as much as I'm going to like 16 when we go there, but I like it. Now I think we're going past 16. Randy says it doesn't matter until there's a college football commissioner. As long as ESPN runs it with a conflict of interest with the SEC, it'll always just be an invitational and not a playoff. Randy, I feel your pain. The college football invitational. I like it. That's probably how we should refer to it from now on. The college football invitational. I think I'll call Pete Bavacqua at Notre Dame, tell him stir the pot. Give him that one. Randy, you could really mix things up with that suggestion. That was one thing, though, when we had Tim Brando on. He's in favor of a bigger one because then ESPN can't handle it all. It'll be too expensive, and they will start having conflicts with the other things that they have. You know, they have an NBA deal. They have an NHL deal. They got other games they got to air. So they've already moved 2 games to TNT. They do even more. Yeah, there'd be games sold to Fox or CBS and all, maybe NBC in all probability. Start seeing these games moved around. McKay says it doesn't really matter how big the tourney gets. Just like in basketball, there'll always be complaints by those who barely miss the cut. That's true, McKay, but we care less and less about their complaints. Honestly, I don't think we'd care much about the complaints right now if it weren't Notre Dame. It's the Irish. And it gets the whole thing like the Irish is mad that a conference didn't lobby or lobbied against them. Well, dude, you're not in a conference. Well, why do they lobby for Miami? They all share the money. If they lobby for Notre Dame, or if they don't say anything and let Notre Dame get in, then Notre Dame gets all the money. They're not really incentivized to help you, Notre Dame. You get that? Yeah, but we're the Irish, and you should help us because we fill your stadiums and make your TV contract more valuable. Larry says, for me, it's less about how many and more about appropriate qualification. At the start of the season, all 130 D1 teams should have equal access to play for a national championship. Last year doesn't matter. Brand doesn't matter. Recruiting doesn't matter. Only how you played this year. That's what should earn you the right. Well, Larry, if that's what you want, you better watch the NFL. Now, I will say, in Larry's defense, what Larry is doing here is Larry's lining up a little bit with the Big Ten. Because the Big Ten is getting shouted down by everybody else in college football. It's like 4 automatic berths for us, 4 automatic berths for the SEC, 2 for the Big 12, 2 for the ACC. Now, that's not equal access, as Larry wants, but it's the closest thing to what Larry's asked for. There is some guaranteed access you can play your way into. I guess there'd be more, because right now there's some with the conference championships, which was pretty cool when Dan Lanning came out and said, well, if you're not in, it's because you didn't win enough. Quit your whining. Now, he's one more guy yelling at Oregon, but the Oregon coach is one more guy yelling at Notre Dame, although I don't know if he thinks how that lands with other schools. And since he's paid by Oregon, he probably doesn't care how it lands with other schools. All right, DJ and PK. When we come back, got more football on the way. Also, we have Kevin Graham talking football at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, and we got David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. At 8:30, Jake Scott will be in studio at 9. Stay with us right here. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.